On today's episode, we're going to take a bike ride on the Neuse River Trail in North Carolina.
Hello and welcome to the Great Adventurer channel. My name is Mark, aka The Great Adventurer, and on this channel we're going to talk about all things travel, from fantastic destinations and cool things to do, as well as how to get there, from planes and trains to cars and cruise ships. The journey is part of the travel experience, so let's enjoy getting from point A to point B. And then let's enjoy our destination once we're there too. Life is a great adventure. Come and join me.
The Neuse River Trail is located in Wake and Johnston counties of North Carolina, just east of Raleigh. The trail is over 34 miles long and runs north to south along the Neuse River. On the northern end is the Falls Lake Dam, and on the southern end is the Municipal Park in Clayton. In the middle is Anderson Point Park, and today's video will focus on the southern half of the trail, which goes from Anderson Point Park to Municipal Park. For the format of this video, I'll start by telling you some information about the trail and show you some highlights from my bike ride. And then, for those interested in seeing more of the trail, I thought I would include my entire 17-mile bike ride on the southern half, starting in Anderson Point Park and concluding in Clayton. Let me say that this video was shot in September of 2025, and the trail was blocked about half a mile before we reached the end at Municipal Park in Clayton. The Neuse River Trail is paved along the entire route, and the terrain is mostly flat. That isn't to say that there aren't some hills, there are, but generally it's flat. The trail is open to both cyclists and pedestrians, and it is the longest paved Greenway trail in North Carolina. Starting in 2023, sections of the trail north of Anderson Point Park through Horseshoe Farm Nature Preserve have been closed off for a sewer interceptor replacement project along the Neuse River. According to the Raleigh Parks and Recreation website at the time that this video was recorded, this project is set to conclude in late 2025. If you're planning a ride on the northern half of the Neuse River Trail, there is a link in the description of this video where you can check on the status of the trail. If you live in the Research Triangle Park area of North Carolina, which consists primarily of Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill, as well as the surrounding cities and towns, or if you're just visiting the area and looking for somewhere to take a long bike ride, Anderson Point Park is a great place to get started. From Anderson Point Park, you can ride west on the Crabtree Creek Trail for about 19 miles to reach Umstead Park in northwest Raleigh. You can ride east on the Mingo Creek Trail for about 5 miles to reach Knightdale Station Park. And just south of Anderson Point Park is a connection to the Walnut Creek Greenway, which will take you about 15 miles to the west, past the Walnut Creek Amphitheater, where you may have seen a concert, through the campus of North Carolina State University, and out to Lake Johnson Park in southwest Raleigh. These are all paved Greenway trails, and some can be quite hilly. But let's get back to the focus of this video, which is the Neuse River Greenway Trail, where you can ride north or south from Anderson Point Park for approximately 17 miles in each direction. Now, I have ridden my bike all over these Greenway trails in Raleigh, and I have to tell you that the southern half of the Neuse River Trail from Anderson Point Park to Clayton is my absolute favorite, and you're going to see why shortly. If you're looking for a long bike ride with only one road crossing, this is the trail for you. I love that this trail has sections that are shady and can keep you cool from the summertime heat, but also there are large, wide open fields with white picket fences that line the trail. I'll provide more commentary about the trail during the bike ride, but before we begin, let me offer a few tips if you're planning a ride of your own. First, the trail is mostly rural. There aren't places to stop and use the restroom, so you'll want to use the facilities at Anderson Point Park prior to departing. I'll point out those facilities as we begin our ride. Also, make sure you have plenty of water and even snacks. If you ride all the way to Clayton, it's 34 miles round trip, and you won't see a convenience store or a vending machine. Be sure to wear sunscreen, as there are sections with no shade. Don't forget to take your cell phone, and cell phone service is pretty good along the route. You may need it in an emergency. Once you've parked your car, be sure to remove or hide any valuables, as break-ins do occur sometimes. Let's look at a satellite map and get our bearings for arriving, parking, restrooms, and directions to each of the Greenway trails that you can ride on from here. Anderson Point Park is located on the bottom half of the screen in the middle inside the turquoise box. You will also notice this highway that runs from left to right across the middle of the screen. That is the Knightdale Bypass, and it's also known as 264, Interstate 40 Alternate, Interstate 87, lots of names. You will see here outlined in red the two parking lots for Anderson Point Park. When you arrive, you will come in on Anderson Point Drive, and it's the only way to get here by car. The first parking lot that you will come to on the top of your screen will be before the bridge that crosses over the highway. If you're coming here with your bike on your car, this is the parking lot that you should park in. You'll recognize it by the large EV charging station that is here. If you cross over the bridge with your bike to access the other lot, there will usually be an attendant asking you to park on the other side of the bridge with your bike. From this parking lot, if you wanted to ride on the Mingo Creek Trail out to Knightdale, you can find that trail here. The Neuse River Trail northbound is blocked off just north of here. Over on the west side, you'll find the Crabtree Creek Trail, and at the bottom of the picture, the Neuse River Trail continues to the south. Also note the two places where it says RR for restrooms. Let's begin our bike ride, and I'll point those out as we get started. So coming out of the parking lot, we'll make a left-hand turn onto the sidewalk and ride on the bridge that goes over the highway. On the other side of the bridge, a left turn will take us into the second parking lot. If you ride to the far end of that lot, you will see a building with restrooms and a large picnic shelter. Also notice the attendant that is here. If you come over here with your car and you have a bike on the back, they will direct you back across the bridge to the other lot. As we make our way around the circle, we'll come to the spot where you can take the Crabtree Creek Greenway, right about where this lady is walking her dogs. But we will continue on the trail going through the park. A little further down on the right, you will see this other building, which contains the other restrooms in the park. As we leave Anderson Point Park and head south on the Neuse River Greenway Trail, I would appreciate it if you would please hit that like button. And if you're enjoying the travel-related content that I'm creating, please consider subscribing to my channel. I would also appreciate any feedback that you would like to share with me about this video. I do read all of the comments and will try to respond to as many as I can. I will also answer any questions that you may have or point you in the best direction to help you find an answer. Now let's go on a 17-mile great adventure on the southern half of the Neuse River Trail, and I will point out some highlights and things that you need to know along the way.
Distance 1 mile. Total time 6 minutes and 22 seconds. Split speed 9.4 miles per hour.
On your left. On your left. on your left. Alright, about 2 miles south of Anderson Point Park now, and we are crossing this bridge. At the end of this bridge will be the entrance to the Walnut Creek Greenway Trail connection. So you can take a left right here and you enter the Walnut Creek Greenway Trail. One of the things that I like about riding on the southern half of the Neuse River Greenway Trail is that once you get south of this point, there's a lot more serenity, a lot more peacefulness, a lot less people. So you'll notice on this trail, there's not as many people that you'll encounter from this point south, which is nice. I'm on your left.
Total distance 3 miles. Total time 14 minutes and 12 seconds. Split speed 15.5 miles per hour.
One of the things that you may notice in the audio of this video is the noise of my bike. I do have an electric bike and I do enjoy riding, and it helps me certainly to get up those hills. The speed for this video is probably about 15, 16 miles an hour, something like that, in case you're curious. Also, one of the things that I love about the southern half of the Neuse River Trail, in places it's just dotted and in more other places it's more prominent, and that is the white picket fences. I think they just add to the natural beauty of this trail, and I love seeing them as we ride along. Coming up, we'll have our one and only road crossing on this trail. We'll have a straight and flat section where we can open it up and get up a lot of speed. I've tried to put some fun music in here just to try and keep things interesting. We'll have the Wake-Johnston County line coming up, as well as more bridge crossings and the Clayton River Walk and Municipal Park in Clayton. So keep watching for all of these fun things.
Distance 5 miles. Total time 21 minutes and 45 seconds. Split speed 15.8 miles per hour.
I'm on your left.
on your left.
Total distance 6 miles. Total time 25 minutes and 42 seconds. Split speed 15.1 miles per hour.
And around this point in the video, you're going to begin to see the white picket fences on both sides of the trail, and you're going to be riding uphill. You're going to have some big, beautiful fields on the left especially, wide open spaces, beautiful sky above, and this is an indication that you're approaching your one and only road crossing for this trail. And we're coming to it right now. We'll do a full stop and look both ways. Generally, there's not a lot of traffic on this road, but it's always wise to stop, obviously. And then we'll proceed across. And as we make this right-hand turn here, this is again another one of my favorite parts of this whole trail, because this section here is flat and straight for quite some time. So I like to bump up my pedal assist level to the maximum here and go into the highest gear possible and just fly down this little section here. You do have to be careful, and once you get a ways down here, there is a 90-degree turn to the left. You'll see it when we get down here, but just a heads up, it's a great place just to go fast. Alright, we're coming up on this left-hand turn here now. A lot of times you'll see some cars parked here and whatnot. But you definitely want to slow down before you enter this curve. And I'm going to pull over here just for a moment on the right. And there's some bikers that are coming down the way here. And we will let them pass, and then we will continue on our journey. Still in pedal assist 5 here, and another long straightaway where we can really crank up and get the speed up to maximum. We're back in the shade now, and on the curvy part of the trail. This is a downhill stretch here.
time 38 minutes and 13 seconds. Split speed 15.8 miles per hour. Total distance 10 miles. Total time 41 minutes and 58 seconds. Split speed 16.0 miles per hour.
So we are between 10 and 11 miles from Anderson Point Park, well over halfway to our destination of Municipal Park in Clayton.
I'm on your left.
At this point, we'll leave Wake County and enter Johnston County. One thing I wanted to circle back on was that I mentioned earlier in the video about the peaceful serenity of this trail and how once you got south of the connection to the Walnut Creek Trail, you wouldn't see many people on the southern half of the Neuse River Trail. Now, I'll be honest, it feels like I've encountered more people today than I have in the past on this trail. But today is a beautiful day for outdoor activities. The temperatures are starting to fall and the environment is a more pleasant setting for outdoor activities. I'm glad to see more people out on the trail today.
I'm on your left.
Total distance 11 miles. Total time 45 minutes and 36 seconds. Split speed 16.5 miles per hour. distance 12 miles. Total time 49 minutes and 31 seconds. Split speed 15.3 miles per hour.
Well, shoot, it looks like the end of the trail. We're about a half a mile from reaching Municipal Park in Clayton. Had we been able to make it the rest of the way, here's some pictures from the park. There's a splash pad for the kids, and it even feels nice for adults at the end of a long, hot bike ride. I'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch my video and for making it to the end. If you liked today's ride, please give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. There are more great adventures ahead, and I'd love for you to come and join me. I'm Mark, aka The Great Adventurer, and until next time, let's make life a great adventure.